Welcome to Palm Bay Lab, celebrating 2 years in business.
Ax-2 crew. They are the Crew Operations Responsible Engineer, or CORE, C-O-R-E. Today's SpaceX CORE is Arthur Berrialt. We've heard him a number of times through the launch countdown. The SpaceX team members will also rotate and hand off coverage to ensure that we have people on console 24/7 for the crew and Dragon for the entire duration of the mission, including all the way through splashdown.
And for Axiom Space, the teams in Houston are utilizing Axiom Mission Control Center, an officially certified control center. From this secure facility, teams have live access to voice, video, and data from the ISS and can work alongside their NASA counterparts to run on-orbit operations and monitor every aspect of the mission in real time. This room is led by what we call the Axle, or the Axiom Operations Lead. And around the room are positions for officers responsible for research, communications, medical, integration and stowage, and timeline operations. This is a significant step in our journey to expand access to low Earth orbit, as it is only the 12th ground segment partner for the ISS program. And through this facility, we are enabling our customers and the global community a front row seat to the work being done on station. We are now T-minus 37 minutes and 31 seconds from the second all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station, and the first for any representatives from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Falcon 9 propellant loading began at T-minus 35 minutes. RP-1 fuel loading is underway on both S1 and S2. And LOX loading is underway on S1.
Tanks will be venting for propellant load. Expect lab venting.
With propellant load, let's go check in with John I.
John Innsbrucker here from the webcast desk in Hawthorne, California at SpaceX headquarters. Inside 37 minutes, counting down, we have completed the go-no-go poll for propellant load and for launch. We've just heard a call out. They are now venting down the tanks. That's one of the steps in propellant load. The next major activity will occur at T-minus 35 minutes when propellant loading will physically begin onto the vehicle. Now we'll start with RP-1 kerosene fuel loading onto both the first and second stages, and we'll be loading liquid oxygen onto the first stage of Falcon 9. Now, in order to fly, just like Falcon 9, Dragon needs its fuel and oxidizer. The Dragon capsule you can see here on the screen, it uses a monomethyl hydrazine called MMH. That's the fuel that's on board the Dragon. And nitrogen tetroxide, or NTO, is the oxidizer. Together, these propellants feed the Draco engines that maneuver Dragon on orbit, as well as the 8 Super Draco engines that would power the launch escape system in the case of an abort scenario. Now again, coming up in about 40 seconds, we will begin fueling on the Falcon 9. That means right now that those 8 Super Draco engines inside Crew Dragon are ready, if needed, to launch the capsule away from the Falcon 9 rocket in an instant, should there be any kind of an emergency associated with the rocket or the pad. But currently, 35 minutes, 18 seconds and counting, everything continues to look good on Falcon 9 and Dragon.
Thank you, John. On the AX-1 flight and during our launch broadcast for that mission, there was a special emphasis on the TRISH research effort, or the Translational Research Institute for Space Health. As the name suggests,
load has started.
Okay, it sounds like a propellant load has started. As for TRISH, as the name suggests, this is a broad effort aimed at ensuring we understand and are preparing for human health beyond our home planet. This is an effort that NASA astronauts and private astronauts can both participate in. Naturally, life just a few hundred miles above Earth poses some unique challenges that we're still unlocking the secrets to even after 60+ years of humans in space. Here is a bit more on the progress made during AX-1 and what's ahead for our participation in this critical research effort.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Fogarty and Dr. Urqueta from TRISH, the Translational Research Institute for Space Health. Let's start with an easy question. What exactly is TRISH?
Yes, Trish. Trish is a consortium between Baylor College of Medicine, MIT, and Caltech. We are funded by NASA to relentlessly and innovatively solve the risks for human space exploration and use a variety of tools to get there, including commercial spaceflight.
What are the goals of the research being conducted for AX2 through Trish?
That is a good question. The research conducted Ax-2 has been highly prioritized to solve the most important risks for human spaceflight as we are planning to go back to the moon and going to other planets. So all of these projects have been custom made and designed to be easy to collect, to take the least crew time, and to take the least mass, power, and volume. And an example is this kit that I have here. We provide one of these to each of the members, and it includes most of the hardware to collect physiologic data, sensory motor, that is your balance, how it changes in space, some surveys, and also how the physiology changes in space. So all of these have been, again, customized for commercial spaceflight.
Talk to me about the framework for this research. How is this set up to enable new data for new flyers?
Yes, so the EXPAND program at Trish has two main elements to its framework to accomplish the goals that were just set out by Dr. Urqueta. So we have essential measures, which have been harmonized with NASA's standard measures to make sure that we're collecting the same type of data on every crew member. So we can compare across people, across different missions to really maximize the value. And then we have exploratory studies as the second part of the framework. And this is where the known unknowns, the questions we have about spaceflight or the risks, have hypotheses generated, and we get to test them.
How does the research apply to those of us on Earth? I mean, some of us are maybe never going to be leaving this planet. Why do we care about this kind of work? Dr. Fogarty, Dr. Urqueta?
Yeah, this is where things get really exciting. So due to the constraints of spaceflight and the complexity, we have to be really focused on creating integrated and holistic solutions. We can't have individual solutions for every problem. Those constraints create a really ideal environment to bring things back to Earth, to put healthcare in people's hands. We believe that these are going to increase healthcare equity, the access to healthcare and the quality of healthcare, which then results in improved health outcomes.
How does this mission, AX2, add to the range of data?
That's a great question. In the last 61 plus years of human spaceflight, roughly only 650 people have flown into space. And if we look at the diversity of these, mostly are male, white males. And what we're seeing with commercial spaceflight is a more diverse population. We're seeing people from all ages, younger and older, as compared to your government astronauts. We're also seeing people from multiple demographics, backgrounds, training, education, and also people with medical conditions. So as we keep growing this database of civilians flying into space, we will have all of the tools that we need to make most humans being able to fly into space, stay for there longer, and enjoy the experience.
Thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to watching the launch with you and seeing the astronauts return and looking at their data.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now just under 30 minutes from the launch of AX-2 mission. It has taken an enormous effort from an incredibly dedicated and hardworking team to get to this moment. Knowing that not everyone can be here to witness it, and even fewer get to share a message with the crew, we asked teams to record some words for this moment. As the countdown to launch continues, here are a few messages from those across the Axiom family.
Peggy, you are an inspiration to so many people around the world. To me, it's been so impactful to see a woman like yourself make such great strides in exploration and achieve so many different types of firsts. My family and I will be watching you launch and cheering you on all the way to the ISS.
Hi, Peggy, Kelly, and Delta here. We just wanted to let you know that we're cheering you on. We're so excited to watch you launch. You're an inspiration to women and girls around the world, and you've been a personal inspiration to me in my own journey to space. We're so excited to watch you launch, and we'll be cheering you on here on Earth.
Go, Peggy! Go Ax-2! Woo!
To Peggy, our notorious space ninja, John, aka Loki, to Ali, who's also known as Slayer, and then to Rihanna, our very own ray of sunshine. Wishing you an amazing launch today, as well as a smooth journey to the ISS. Ad Astra AX-2 crew.
Thank you, Peggy, John, Ali, and Rihanna, for having the next generation of astronauts. We're so proud of everything you've accomplished, and we're excited for your successful journey home.
Send us a postcard.
Just wanted to say that we're super excited for all the groundbreaking researches you guys are going to do. We're rooting for you, and good luck.
The marketing team has been proud to support Ax-2 mission. Godspeed, Ax-2.
This is the Portable Export System team. We are very excited about the Ax-2 mission coming up and wish you all the best.
We're very excited for you guys. Y'all are such an inspiration, and we're rooting for you all the way through.
We wish you a safe and successful mission.
We want to congratulate the Ax-2 crew. Thank you so much for all of the inspiration, and we wish you the best on your journey.
Ax-2 crew, we're proud of you and good luck.
Hey, Ax-2. All of us in avionics wish you safe travels and lots of fun. Godspeed.
This is the Environmental Controls and Life Support Systems team at Axiom Space. We're super excited about the Ax-2 mission and want to wish the best to the crew.
Ax-2 crew, we are so proud of you here at Axiom Space. This is the systems engineering team on the station program. Godspeed and Ad Astra on this groundbreaking mission. From human resources to you,
go Ax-2!
We're sending all of our support to you guys from here in Axiom headquarters, and we just wanted to say congratulations on the Ax-2 mission.
Hey, this is Ryan Lee from the Pressure Garment team, wishing you on the Ax-2 flight all the best. Godspeed, guys. Go team! Go, go team, go team, go!
Peggy, John, Ali, Rayana, I look forward to seeing you flying in space and working aboard the International Space Station. I also wish you to enjoy your staying aboard for this another Making History mission. We are all proud of you, and we wait for you on the ground, and Godspeed.
A big thanks to all those who contributed to those videos and everyone behind the crew today. A lot of really excited teams out there. And a special thanks to Kelly Girardi and the Space Gal, Emily Calandrelli, both big STEAM education advocates who you just saw as well. They dedicate their influence to increasing literacy and interest in science, especially for young girls, which is awesome.
Yeah. You know, Emily and Kelly are both moms to young girls, so it's safe to say that they have front row seats to knowing what is cool and inspiring. Now, speaking of front row seats, it's been feeling like we have one of our very own looking at Pad 39A with these camera views that we've been getting all morning and afternoon. Now, let's take a moment to get acquainted with the vehicles that you see there on your screen. The Falcon 9 rocket with a Dragon spacecraft on top together stand at about 215 feet, which is almost 30 feet taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. Falcon 9 is a reusable two-stage rocket, which means it's kind of like two rockets in one, the first stage and the second stage. The first stage is the bottom two-thirds of the vehicle. Today's booster is flying for the first time. You can think of it as the large bottom white portion and the middle black portion. So that's what we mean when we say the booster. The first stage is responsible for accelerating Falcon and Dragon through the Earth's atmosphere and into space. In order to do that, it has 9 Merlin engines at the bottom of the stage. Prior to liftoff, the Falcon 9 first stage is...
Stage 2 cryohelium load has started.
Actually, and currently underway, is being loaded up with nearly 1 million pounds of fuel and liquid oxygen. The Merlin engines on the first stage are optimized for sea level. They achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. The first stage accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space and then separates from the rest of the rocket about 2.5 minutes into flight. From there, the first stage will head over to LZ-1. It will do what no other rocket, or excuse me, what no other orbital class rocket in the world can do. It'll go right there, make its way back to Earth. Today marks the first time we are landing Falcon 9 on land for a crew mission. Previous crew missions landed on a drone ship stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. So pretty exciting first for us today. Landing back on land has a lot of benefits. For example, it eliminates the need for our recovery team to be stationed out at sea for days, and it improves our turnaround time to get Falcon 9 ready to fly again. Now, above the first stage is the second stage. The second stage has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, and that ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is essentially a smaller version of the first stage, whereas the first stage is designed to power the vehicle out of the Earth's atmosphere and through the forces of gravity. The second stage is specifically designed to operate in the vacuum of space. The second stage powers the Dragon spacecraft to its targeted drop-off orbit. The Dragon spacecraft itself is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond. But as we've been seeing with those views inside the capsule, today we're carrying 4 people. We have the 4 members of the Axiom 2 crew. It's the first private spacecraft to take humans to the space station and the only spacecraft currently flying that is capable of returning significant amounts of cargo to Earth. Like the Falcon 9 rocket, the Dragon spacecraft is also reusable. This will be the second flight for this particular Dragon spacecraft. This is Dragon Freedom that the Ax-2 are flying in today. It previously supported NASA's Crew 4 mission in April 2022. Now, we are awaiting our T0 coming up in just over 23 minutes from now. The ground operations teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the ascent portion of the mission will look like.
Now, once we hit T0, we're going to watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic pad 39A and make their ascent. Now, about 43 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, what we typically refer to as max Q. It's worth noting, once we hit max Q, we'll be going supersonic, faster than the speed of sound.
Dynamic pressure, we can throttle up our Merlin engines once again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. First is MECO, or main engine cutoff. This is where all 9 Merlin engines will shut off in preparation for stage separation, where, as the name suggests, that's where the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event.
That event is SES-1, the second stage engine start number 1. That's where the Merlin vacuum engine lights up and propels the second stage, along with our Ax-2 crew and Dragon, into orbit.
As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 3 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the boost back burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines will reignite and then shut down. This helps to head the booster back to Cape Canaveral. The second burn, or the entry burn, helps to slow the stage down in preparation for entry back through the Earth's atmosphere. At about 90 seconds after Dragon gets into orbit, Falcon 9 will then land back on Earth. The landing burn will bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land back on land near the launch site today, around 8 minutes into mission. I should say that actually happens about a minute prior to that second engine cutoff.
Yep, you're right, Kate. So as the first stage is back on Earth, the second stage will cut off its single Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. Once this happens, we wait for that all-important confirmation of a good orbital insertion. Then Dragon will begin its preparations and separate from the second stage. About 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we ought to get that great view from the forward camera showing Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. And once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out those Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure that Dragon continues to increase the separation distance from the second stage.
The nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes, which will expose Dragon's docking mechanism in advance
Stage
of
2
arrival.
RP1 load is complete.
All right, that call out there telling us that RP1 loading is now complete on stage 1. Now, in advance, or excuse me, on, I think we heard actually stage 2 there. Now, that docking mechanism exposure will be in advance of arrival to the International Space Station. Now, with that, let's head over to Leah at Johnson Space Center in Houston for another update on how things are going there with station preparation. Hey, Leah.
Hey, Kate. The space station team here in Houston is focused on the critical systems on the station, and everything continues to function as expected ahead of launch. So the teams have verified the command path from the ground up through our constellation of communication satellites to the station. Everything is nominal. We love that word, and the station will be ready to receive Dragon tomorrow should they launch tonight. Mission Control Houston is go for launch. Once the crew arrives at station, the Expedition 69 crew will be there to welcome the Ax-2 crew on board. Right now, living in the station, we have 7 people. That includes NASA astronauts Frank Rubio, Woody Hoberg, and Steve Bowen, United Arab Emirates astronaut Sultan Al-Nayati, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Andrei Fedyayev, Sergei Prokopyev, and Dmitry Petelin. Flight Director Greg Whitney is on console now, leading flight controllers on the Orbit 3 team in Houston for launch, and Flight Director Marcos Flores will lead teams for docking tomorrow. A reminder that launch today will take about 16 hours to get to the station, with docking to the Node 2 Zenith or space-facing port scheduled just before 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Once Dragon is fully docked to the station, the teams here in Houston will assist the Axiom Space and space station astronauts with leak checks as they work to open hatches on both Dragon and inside the station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch open to take place about 2 hours after docking. That's it for us here in Mission Control Houston, and I will send it back over to the team in Hawthorne. Duke?
Thanks, Leah. And all of that is set to begin in just over 18 minutes from right now. And I got to say, the energy around here is certainly rising. As Leah just mentioned, once the crew launches, they will spend the next 16 hours in Dragon, catching up to the International Space Station. That time on orbit and in Dragon will feature a variety of tasks, including some planned photography, but about half of that time is scheduled for sleep, which the crew will absolutely need because once they reach the ISS, they have quite the schedule ahead of them. They will spend 8 days on station conducting a variety of science investigations and technology demonstrations, including radiation protection research, studies on how to create rain and how to enhance our understanding of dangerous thunderstorms, as well as DNA research with nanomaterials and reprogramming skin cells to help create regenerative medicines. Wow. When they are not hands-on with research, they will be participating in numerous outreach events connecting with groups around the world. John, for instance, will use the station's ham radio to share a message with students. Beyond all that, Commander Peggy Whitson has assured us that each of them will carve out some time to simply pause and look down at the planet below as it speeds by at a cool 17,500 miles per hour.
I mean, I would imagine that if I were in space, my face would just be up against the window the whole time. On station, just in the cupola the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
Now, as we've said before, we have an instantaneous launch window. That means that we have 1 second. We're targeting 5:37 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:37 p.m. Pacific Time. So just 16.5 minutes from
Stage
now.
2 LOX load has begun.
That call out, they're telling us that the liquid oxygen on stage 2 is now beginning, the liquid oxygen on is beginning to be loaded onto stage 2. That will wrap up around T-2 minutes. Now, I was talking about the instantaneous launch window because we are essentially chasing the space station. We're trying to catch up to it. It means that in order for everything to be precisely lined up in terms of how much propellant we're taking on board, and obviously we don't want to take too much because everything about space is weight. How much weight are you taking? And so we want to optimize our path to the International Space Station. And so we basically have that instantaneous moment to take off.
All right, and that moment is coming soon. And as we approach the final moments of our countdown to launch, Axiom Space CEO Mike Suffredini wanted to take a moment to reflect on this, the second Axiom Space mission.
This mission today is very meaningful for Axiom Space. It's a watershed moment because it's our opportunity to really start bringing the rest of the world to the International Space Station. We're honored that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is flying with us here today. The 2 crew members flying are fantastic. They've done a great job in training. Of course, John Schaffner's been with us for a while. He's a backup on AX-1. We're excited for him to fly. Of course, the commander's Peggy Whitson, and while she's the first woman commander for a commercial mission, that's a big deal to us. I really don't think it's a huge deal to Peggy. She's flown so many times. This is, like riding a bike. But we're very excited for this crew, and we're looking forward to their mission. So, we don't do this by ourselves. Axiom is a wonderful company with fantastic employees. They've done quite a bit of work to get to this point. The commander is one of our very own as well. But our thanks go out to the entire team that support us. Axiom done a fantastic job in preparing for the mission and the medical and all the work that's gone into getting the crews ready to go fly. SpaceX, with its fantastic, reliable Dragon spacecraft and Falcon launch vehicle, have prepped the crew and the vehicle, and it's out on the launch pad ready to go. And of course, NASA, we can't do any of this without NASA, who has worked with us along the way, allowed us to have this opportunity, and will work with us on orbit. And of course, the investors. The reason why we get to do what we're doing as a company and build this space station and do these missions is because the investors that are with us along the way. So it's the entire team that has supported us and worked with us throughout this last several months as we prepared for this mission, and we're thankful to them all. All right, guys, you're going to have a great time on orbit. We're looking forward to seeing you there on orbit. From all of us here at Axiom, we wish you good luck and Godspeed.
Just under 13.5 minutes, and everything continues to look good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon. Now, currently, Falcon 9 began
we are still tracking no issues
35 minutes,
on Dragon
right
for
on time.
today's launch. We have continued weather evaluations, and for your awareness, we are monitoring an anvil cloud that is moving towards LC-39A. It's currently 5 miles away, and it just needs to remain outside of 3 miles for launch to continue. The weather officer is going to continue monitoring this cloud and will continue to provide updates to the launch teams. How copy?
Dragon copies, no issues on the vehicle, watching the cloud. I'm thinking very dry spot.
Good readback, and just a reminder that for the Falcon 9 valve, the Falcon team is going to be performing that manual evaluation of the manifold pressure until T-minus 35 seconds. And if we do not pass those checks, the Falcon team will call a hold. If the evaluation passes, there will be no call made, and we will continue with the countdown. So again, at T-minus 35 seconds following the manual evaluation, if we do not pass those checks, the Falcon team will call a hold. But if there is no call, we have passed the checks, and we will continue with countdown.
Dragon copies, manual evaluation. We'll call a hold if it's not passing the checks. Expect no call if it looks good.
Good readback.
I like that comment. Thinking dry thoughts. Now we're talking about propellant loading. RP1 fuel is completely loaded on the second stage. Fuel loading is continuing on the first stage. We're just about full. It'll finish up at the T-minus 6 minute mark. Densified liquid oxygen loading is continuing on the first stage and the second stage. Both stages well underway. First stage is nearing a completion, but it won't wrap up until T-minus 3 minutes. The second stage just began a few minutes ago. That'll wrap up at T-minus 2 minutes. As we get closer to launch, we will do various checkouts. One is the thrust vector controllers. These are what move the engine nozzles around on the first and second stage engine. And when we move those nozzles, we call it TVC wiggles. Those will be done inside 10 minutes. We'll also be doing checkouts of throttle valves on the engine. Now the range currently is go. Air and sea space are clear. The weather, you heard the briefing from the Corps up to the crew. We're watching one anvil cloud. It's within 5 miles, but it's got to just stay more than 3 miles away, and we will be go to fly. And meanwhile, the Dragon team also had reported they're working no issues. Everything is complete through the countdown. The comm checkouts are finished. The access arm is retracted. The launch escape system is armed. The crew is strapped in and ready to go. We're coming up on final instructions of the crew. We'll hear that at T-minus 10 minutes. They'll configure their displays for launch. They'll get the last messages, and then we'll go into the terminal countdown sequence. Let's listen into the countdown net.
Dragon SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
And SpaceX Dragon, we can confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX copies. And on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we are honored to have you aboard Dragon Capsule Freedom today on its next trip to the International Space Station and the second Axiom crew mission. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
Let freedom fly.
Hear the crew calling back to the ground, let freedom fly. We see them applauding. Everything continuing to look good. We're coming up on 9 minutes to launch. Next major event is going to be engine chill at T-minus 7 minutes.
As John just said, at T-minus 7 minutes, we will begin to flow a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps, which that is basically chilling the hardware, performing an engine chill prior to the full flow. We do that in order to help minimize the chances of the hardware experiencing any thermal shock when that full flow of super chilled liquid oxygen occurs. Now we can see some venting from the vehicle now, totally normal. It is that liquid oxygen just vaporizing as it comes into contact with the ambient air.
And Kate, maybe this is an opportunity. You know, we always use the word abort. This might be a chance to let everybody know that there are abort callouts in flight that we're going to hear. Those are just heads up to the crew that says, should a contingency occur, there's different actions that'll happen at each various stage of the flight when you're on first stage or when you're on second stage.
That's right. We should actually hear Commander Peggy Whitson calling those abort modes out as they are ascending and really getting to orbit. She is tracking everything on her, both her tablet as well on her leg, as well as the crew display above her head. So she is able to identify at which mode they are entering, and those modes identify basically where and what sequence Dragon would take at that point in time during the flight. Now we're about 10 seconds away from that engine chill for the first stage.
Engine chill has started.
All right, right on time. We've opened the valves that are letting liquid oxygen and kerosene fuel down to the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Our next major activity coming up at T-minus 6 minutes approximately, we'll hear the announcement that fuel loading is complete on the first stage. One other comment, while we were hearing the briefing to the crew at the T-minus 10 minute mark, we also heard reference to a call out that may or may not be made at T-minus 35 seconds. Many of the checkouts of the Falcon 9 are done by computer in the last minute. There is one today that requires an engineer to look at some data. If, for example, that system had an issue, that would be called out at T-minus 35 seconds. Right now, everything continues to look good, though, on Falcon 9.
We also heard in the briefing that they are tracking an anvil cloud that at the time of the briefing was about 5 miles away from the pad. They are tracking it. It just needs to stay outside of 3 miles. So everything still continues to look okay on that front. The next call out that we'll hear in about 30 seconds is that Dragon has transitioned to the terminal count configuration. That's basically an indication that the Dragon spacecraft has taken over the spacecraft's countdown and will at that point be on internal power. At this point in time, RP1 is now completely loaded, both on the first and second stages. LOX load continues on both stages. It'll wrap up at T-minus 3 minutes for first stage and T-minus 2 minutes for second stage.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for Trongback retract.
Pressurization call out. We are putting pressurized gas helium onto the stage in preparation for opening up the clamp arm that's around the top of the second stage. That'll happen just at about the T-minus 4 minute mark. The clamp arm will open, and about 10 seconds after that, the strong back, the structure alongside the Falcon 9, will recline just
Strong back
about
is
2 degrees away. We've heard the call out, strong back is retracting. That starts the sequence now in the ground computer to open the arms and then recline that strong back about 2 degrees away. At liftoff, hydraulics will then pull the strong back to a position about 45 degrees away from the rocket as it flies out of the launch mount. See the arms opening up now around the second stage.
We should now be able to see that strong back retract just a couple degrees away from the launch vehicle. Upon liftoff, it will move back even further in order to clear the way for Falcon 9. Looks like we can start to see that movement now. This structure is what is utilized to horizontally integrate the vehicles while still in the hangar, as well as transport them horizontally to the launch pad and then raise them to their vertical launch position.
And we've got the strong back is now, you see a little bounce there as it stops.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And right on time, stage 1 LOX load is complete. We're down to just loading a liquid oxygen on the second stage. That'll wrap up just after T-minus 2 minutes, at which point we'll have the 1 million pounds of propellant on board Falcon 9 ready to fly.
We can see the vehicle continuing to vent some of that gaseous or the liquid oxygen that has now vaporized.
Dragon is in terminal count and is on internal power.
We have a live view there of the SpaceX team here at headquarters in mission control on the left-hand side, as well as the Axiom team from their own mission control as well on the right.
Dragon SpaceX for weather. Looks like the system has cleared, and we're looking like we're go for launch for weather.
All right, we've heard a good news information to the crew.
Dragon copies.
We're letting them know that it appears the weather is going to avoid the area.
That is great news indeed.
Just waiting now for the call out, liquid oxygen load complete on the second stage.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete. Dragon is in auto idle. Ground gas closeouts, expect loud venting.
At venting, we're now bleeding off excess pressure in the strong back. That's what's giving that large white plume as cold gas meets the warm Florida air and condenses the moisture. Coming up on 1 minute where the flight computers will take over the sequence. Let's listen in to the launch of Falcon 9 with Dragon and the Axiom 2 crew.
FTS is armed, Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling. Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Dragon copies. Go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff, Falcon 9. Go Axiom.
Stage 1 Alpha.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Together, we expand what is
Vehicle
possible
fishing
in
down
low
range.
Earth orbit. Ad Astra and Godspeed
Stage 1,
Ax-2.
Alpha.
T plus 36 seconds into flight. A great view of Falcon 9 heading to space.
Power telemetry is nominal.
A
Stage
great
1
call
throttle
out.
down.
Power telemetry nominal. We're into the throttle bucket. Is the first stage is throttle down power on the Merlin engines in preparation for max Q.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Faster than the speed of sound as we're getting great views from the first stage camera looking back at Kennedy Space Center and Complex 39A.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Max Q.
We're out of the throttle bucket.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
We're at full power, and that call at 1 Bravo, that's another one of those abort modes. As we get higher and faster, the logic for Dragon, should a contingency occur, changes from stage to stage.
Impact chill is underway.
Chill announcement says we're getting the turbo pump on the second stage engine cooled down in preparation for its light up coming up in just another minute from now. Again, great views looking back, and you can see the contrail as we left 39A and the shadow of the contrail against the cloud deck around Florida. And we're coming up 3 big sequences and a view live of the crew inside Dragon. They're getting ready. We're going to get 3 events here: main engine cutoff, stage
Stage 1 throttle
separation,
down.
and then we're going to light the second stage engine. We've heard the throttle down in preparation for stage separation.
Eco.
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
And back ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
All right, stage separation. We've lit the second stage engine. The first stage is into the boost back burn, working its way back towards Cape Canaveral. Views on the left side, that's the first stage. Engines running as we come back to the launch site or the landing site. Second stage engine nozzle is visible on the right side as we're powering the Axiom 2 crew into low Earth orbit on the way to the International Space Station. Waiting for call out that the boost back burn is complete.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Right on time. First stage completed the first of 3 burns heading back to the landing site. Second stage continuing on power and on trajectory.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
Head northeast, the Bermuda ground station.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Bermuda is listening into the vehicle now.
Nominal trajectory.
And the crew hears the call out of a nominal trajectory. So 4 minutes into flight, everything continuing to go well. First stage heading back. And there's the crew on the second stage getting the ride into orbit to the space station. Coming up, we're waiting for the next trajectory call out from the guidance officer.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Love to hear those words. A nominal trajectory for Dragon.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
And maybe even a little bit of excitement in the crew's voice. Commander Peggy Whitson calling back down, hearing that call out from GNC of a nominal trajectory. Left side of the screen, you can see the first stage. It's now beginning to orient itself so that the engines are pointed down towards the land as we will be descending towards landing zone 1 in Cape Canaveral. The 4 titanium grid fins have all deployed. They'll help guide
Acquisition signal, lost.
They'll guide the first stage through once we get into the atmosphere following the entry burn, which will be coming up here in another couple of minutes. On the right-hand side, the second stage with the Dragon capsule on top, heading up the eastern seaboard of the U.S. We've just heard the call out of Boston. That's the New Hampshire tracking station, has picked up the signal.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
GNC continuing to make those call outs that we want to hear. Everything
Trajectory
continuing to look
nominal.
good. And the crew echoing them right back down. Good comms with the crew. We've been able to bring some live video shots from inside the capsule as they're headed to space. And there's another view of the crew.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there we heard that the startup burn for that stage 1 booster, you can see it there on the left-hand side of your screen, has now begun.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And conclusion of that entry burn, that burn helps to slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. The first stage sees high drag, which scrubs roughly 70% of the velocity by the time that
Dragon
landing.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Love to hear that call out. Everything
Nominal trajectory.
Beautiful view of planet Earth coming to us from the second stage views on the right-hand side. Left-hand side, our first view of the Space Coast once again. This booster is attempting a landing at LZ1.
Stage 1 transonic.
That booster is now traveling near the speed of sound. Live view coming to you from one of our tracking cameras. We can see the grid fins actuating to help steer the booster down.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Standing by to...
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
There you
Stage
can
1 landing confirmed.
You can see that first stage has landed back at LZ1. This is the first time that we have performed a land landing on a crew mission. Coming up next will be second engine cutoff, or SECO, and that's where after that engine cuts off, second stage will coast for a few minutes until Dragon is commanded to separate.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
We're expecting SECO to occur in about 20 seconds.
Shannon.
Copy, Shannon.
Commander Peggy Whitson continuing to call out the abort modes.
SECO.
All right, on time shutdown of that second engine. Also confirming that the launch escape system is now disarmed.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
All right, and there's that call out. We can confirm good orbital insertion.
Copy, nominal insertion.
Dragon SpaceX, launch escape system disarmed.
We can see the crew playing with their
Dragon
harnesses.
copy.
Now that they are in zero G, which I think we just got a view of our zero G Stuffy. Clearly the crew is having fun already. Right after liftoff, I think we heard a laugh coming from Commander Peggy Whitson, which, being a NASA legend and one of the most decorated astronauts of all time, it's amazing to hear that even a space veteran as she
Detected loss of signal, Cape.
still has fun at liftoff. The next event that we have coming up At just around T plus 12 minutes is Dragon separation. That's where the Dragon spacecraft and trunk, so collectively referred to as the Dragon spacecraft, will separate from the second stage.
Acquisition signal, Newfoundland.
After that separation, we will begin to deploy the nose cone, which exposes the forward bulkhead thrusters as well as the forward hatch. That forward hatch is what the capsule utilizes to autonomously dock to the International Space Station. Going from left to right, everyone's having fun, clearly. We have mission specialist Rayana Barnawi. To the right of her is pilot John Schaffner. Then we have Commander Peggy Whitson. And on the far right, mission specialist Ali Al-Karni. We can see that the excess strap on some of the harnesses, as well as the writing utensil for their tablets, they continue to play around with as they are experiencing zero G for the first time. At least we can say that for 3 of the 4 astronauts on board today. Now we are standing by for Dragon separation, which is expected to occur in the next few seconds.
Dragon separation.
And there you can see live on your screen that Dragon trunk and capsule. That's a really cool view. That's actually
SpaceX launch director. A very great flight. Wish you safe travels. And a few words from our chief engineer as well.
Thanks for putting your trust in the Falcon 9 team. Hope you enjoyed the ride to space. Have a great trip on Dragon. Welcome home to zero G, Peggy.
That was SpaceX Chief Engineer Bill
Happy to be
Gerstenmaier.
here. It was a phenomenal ride.
Make sure you share the joy of zero G with your crew.
We will do that.
Already you can see Dragon's Draco thrusters activating.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. Nose cone deploy is in progress. Hooks are opening.
Dragon copies.
All right, great news there to let us know that the hooks, there are 2 sets of hooks.
Signal, Bermuda.
2 sets of hooks that are now disengaging. And once that is complete, we are able to deploy, open the nose cone. We should see that nose cone deploy in about a minute. It's a great view on the right-hand side of your screen from the Falcon 9 second stage, looking at the Dragon Freedom capsule. And of course, the crew on the left-hand side playfully acclimating to their new zero-G environment. You can see the zero-G indicator in the background. And I love this view. This view is over the shoulders of Commander Peggy Whitson, who here is on the left-hand side, or the left seat, and pilot John Schaffner is on the right seat here, looking at what they're looking at. These are the crew display panels that they utilize in flight to track which thrusters are firing, what phase of the mission that they are in, as you can see, where they are around the globe. All right, as we can see, crew getting acclimated. The nose cone hooks are in the process of being disengaged, so they are starting to open. And once those that is complete, we are able to open the nose cone and expose the forward hatch.
So incredible. Well, today's launch is certainly one more for the history books, and yet the story is just getting underway. Leah, with the crew officially on their way to the International Space Station, how are things tracking there in mission control at Johnson Space Center?
Hey, Duke. Well, the chase has officially begun with Dragon heading toward the International Space Station. So, with successful launch of Axiom Mission 2 at 37 p.m. Eastern, the teams here at NASA's Johnson Space Center are going to be monitoring Dragon's flight to the International Space Station over the next 16 hours. Our role in this journey really kicks in at a period called integrated operations. This is where Dragon is much closer to the station. And at this point, NASA, SpaceX, and Axiom Space teams are all in lockstep to get the crew safely docked. The teams here are preparing for a docking of Ax-2 to the station at about 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. We're going to begin joint coverage of that phase at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But for now, that'll be it for us in Mission Control Houston tonight, and I'll be back with you tomorrow for docking. Back to you, Kate and Duke.
Yeah. Now, over the next 16 hours, Dragon will execute a series of burns to gradually raise and line up the Ax-2 crew for docking International Space Station in what we refer to as activation and rendezvous phase of the mission. Now, in just a few minutes, the crew will get to change out of their spacesuits and get a little bit more comfortable for flight, and will enjoy their first meal aboard the spacecraft. I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun. The first time for 3 of them eating in microgravity. And then at 2 p.m. Pacific, they will get ready for a rest period that will last about 10 hours, 8 hours for actual sleeping, and a couple hours for pre- and post-sleep activities. And then before they arrive at the station, we'll have 2 potential opportunities to chat briefly with the crew on orbit. One later this morning around 11:10 a.m. Pacific, and one early tomorrow about 12:10 a.m. Hopeful one coverage. But we'll make an announcement on our social media channels no later than 15 minutes before the event start time. But in the meantime, be sure to keep tabs on the mission at axiomspace.com, and you can also keep track of Dragon's flight on spacex.com/launches.
And even if we aren't able to talk live with the crew, we will continue to provide updates on the mission across our social media channels. And starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 4:30 a.m. Pacific on Monday, May 22nd, we will pick back up with our live joint coverage of the Ax-2 crew's approach and docking to station with NASA. Please keep an eye on Axiom and SpaceX social channels for updates, as there will be plenty of incredible moments to share with you over the next 10 days. And so from all of us at Axiom Space, thank you, SpaceX. Thank you, NASA. This is just the beginning. And thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you soon.